Welcome back. You've done a lot of deep work to get to this point. You've looked honestly at the gap between your outer success and your inner truth. You've challenged the old maps you were given. You've explored your joys, strengths, and career capital. You've listened to what the world actually needs. You've started to test tiny offers. You've thought seriously about money and energy and what it will take to make this sustainable. Now it's time to talk about something many people hope for but often fear: the pivot. This video, number 15 in the course on Ikigai, is about how to design and execute a pivot in a way that's thoughtful, grounded, and as low risk as possible. Not a movie-style dramatic leap where you burn everything down, but a series of deliberate steps that move you from where I am toward where I want to be, using everything you've learned so far. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand what a real pivot actually looks like for most people. Hint, it's not all or nothing. How to use low-risk trials and micro-bets to explore new directions. How to build a simple decision filter out of your Ikigai. And how to sketch a transition plan that feels both courageous and sane. Let's start by dissolving one myth, the myth of the dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime leap. In movies and inspirational stories, the pivot looks like a sudden moment of courage. Someone quits their job in a big scene, walks out of the building, and magically lands in their dream career. It makes for good storytelling. It rarely reflects how it actually happens. In real life, most successful pivots are a series of small, cumulative changes. They almost always start on the side, in the margins of your current life. They involve experiments, adjustments, and gradual rebalancing of your time, income, and identity. Think back to Sarah. She didn't walk out of her accounting job one Friday and become a financial educator on Monday. She started by noticing which parts of her work she enjoyed, explaining, advising, translating complexity into clarity. Then she raised her hand for more of that kind of work internally. She helped colleagues and clients in ways that leaned into these strengths. She took on small side projects. Over time, she built enough evidence, confidence, and connections to shift her role more dramatically. The same is true for Jessica. Her pivot into impact-focused marketing didn't start with a resignation letter. It started with one small project for a cause she cared about. Then another. Then a gradual reshaping of her portfolio and her identity. Her career looked more like a series of overlapping curves than a hard break. This is what your manuscript calls the pivot in practice: testing, deciding, and transitioning. So, if you're feeling that a pivot is calling you, the first question is not, should I quit? The first question is, what low-risk trials can I design that move me closer to my Ikigai without blowing up my life? Low-risk trials are experiments that can be done in the margins of your current commitments, have a clear start and end, teach you something specific, and don't endanger your basic stability. Examples might include offering a handful of paid one-on-one sessions in an area where you have strengths and see a need, running a short workshop for a very small group based on your prototype ideas, volunteering in a carefully chosen role that uses your strengths in a new context, negotiating a small change in your current job, like taking on a project that aligns better with your Ikigai hypothesis, testing a content series or pilot program online to see who responds. The key is that each trial is designed to answer a question. For example, will people pay for my help with this specific problem? Do I enjoy delivering this type of work enough to do more of it? Does this audience resonate with my way of approaching things? Can I realistically handle this on top of my current life, or does it drain me too much? You can think of each trial as a data-gathering mission. Instead of trying to figure everything out in your head, you let reality give you feedback. Now, while you're running these trials, you need a way to make decisions about what to keep, what to expand, and what to let go of. This is where your Ikigai becomes a decision filter. A decision filter is a set of criteria you use to evaluate opportunities or next steps. It helps you say yes to things that move you toward your Ikigai and no to things that might look appealing but actually pull you away. A simple Ikigai-based decision filter might include questions like, does this opportunity allow me to use strengths I want to keep developing? Does it connect to needs I genuinely care about? Is there a realistic path to sustainable reward here, financially and energetically? How does it feel in my body, expansive, neutral, or contracted, when I imagine doing this regularly? Compared to what I'm doing now, does this move me closer to or further from the kind of life I want? You can literally write these questions down and use them whenever a new option appears. A job offer, a project, a client, a collaboration, a new idea for a side venture. Over time, you may refine your filter. You might add more specific criteria like, I want to do less of X and more of Y, or I only want to work with organizations that meet these values, or I need at least this level of autonomy to thrive. This filter doesn't guarantee perfect decisions, but it gives you a grounded way to choose that's more aligned than it pays well, or it's flattering. Now let's talk about the transition plan, the bridge between your current life and your emerging ikigai. A transition plan doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to answer 3 questions. Where am I now? Where am I trying to get to in the next stage? What are the key steps, with rough timing, that will move me there? Where am I now includes your current work model, income, debts, responsibilities, energy levels, and what parts of your work already align with your ikigai map. Where am I trying to get to is not your ultimate destination for the rest of your life. Think in terms of the next meaningful chapter. Maybe that's moving from generic corporate work to a role in a more aligned industry. Maybe it's shifting from full-time employment in one field to a part-time blend of employment and your own small practice. Maybe it's evolving from doing work you don't care about to doing work you care about for at least part of your week. Once you've named those 2 points, you can sketch steps. For example, Phase 1, explore and test. Run 3 offer prototypes over the next 3 months. Use evenings or weekends for these experiments while keeping my current job. Refine my ikigai map and decision filter based on what I learn. Phase 2, strengthen foundation. Save an additional X to extend my runway. Reduce non-essential expenses to lower my monthly cost base slightly. Negotiate for 1 less day per week at my current job once I've established a certain level of side income. Phase 3, rebalance, move to a hybrid work model. Part-time employment, part-time ikigai-aligned work. Continue running experiments, focusing on the ones that show the most traction and joy. Monitor my energy and finances closely, adjusting as needed. Phase 4, decide. After a year of experiments and gradual rebalancing, review, is my ikigai-aligned work consistently bringing in X per month? Do I feel energized and capable of doing more? Is my runway sufficient if I reduce my traditional work further? Based on this review, choose whether to maintain, expand, or revise the balance. This is just an example, of course. Your plan will look different. The important thing is that you think in phases, not just in one giant leap. Throughout this process, communication matters too, especially with people who may be affected by your choices, partners, family, colleagues. You don't need to ask permission to live a life that fits you, but you do need to communicate with respect. Share your reasoning. Share the steps you're taking to manage risk. Share what this means to you, not just in terms of work, but in terms of being a more present, alive version of yourself. You might say something like, I've been feeling a misalignment in my work. I'm not planning to quit everything overnight, but I do want to start taking small, smart steps towards work that fits me better. Here's what that looks like in the next few months. Here's how I'm thinking about money and stability. I'd really value your support and your questions. That kind of conversation can be vulnerable, but it also invites the people who care about you into your journey instead of surprising them. Finally, let's talk about identity. Because a pivot isn't just about changing what you do. It's about updating who you understand yourself to be. If you've spent years or decades being the lawyer, the engineer, the manager, the marketer, the caregiver, it can feel strange to step into a new story. Part of you might cling to the old label even if you've outgrown it. One gentle way to handle this is to use "I'm someone who" statements as you pivot. For example, "I'm someone who helps people make sense of their finances." "I'm someone who creates clear paths for stuck professionals." "I'm someone who helps organizations tell their stories." "I'm someone who makes complex topics simple." These statements don't lock you into a specific job title. They describe your contribution. They allow your identity to update gradually, anchored in your strengths and values, not just your employment status. To close this video, I want to affirm something. The fact that you're even thinking about a pivot and doing this work so thoughtfully is a sign of deep courage. You could ignore the misalignment. Many people do. You could stay on autopilot, but you're choosing not to. You're choosing awareness, experimentation, and gradual change. That's brave. In the final core lesson, we'll zoom out and talk about the long game, how to live your ikigai every day through habits, reviews, contribution, and legacy. We'll bring everything together so you leave this course not with a single plan etched in stone, but with a way of living that keeps you aligned over time. For now, start sketching your own transition plan. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just answer, where am I now? Where do I want to be in the next chapter? And what are the next few steps I can take that are bold but not reckless? You're not starting from nothing. You're building on everything you've already lived. I'll see you in the next video.